Hi guys, I hope all of you are doing well. So I welcome you all to yet another video in this AWS Data Engineering Certification course, and in this particular video we are going to talk about how we are going to launch a MariaDB RDS instance using the full configuration. So till now we have used the easy configuration setup mode, or I would say the easy mode, in which we only had a limited options that we could choose for the configuration of our database instance that we were launching in the RDS. In this video, we will talk about the full configuration mode. We will talk about a lot of other configurations that we were not having inside our easy create mode. So with that said, let's get started with this video and let's get straight into the system. So the first thing that we'll be doing is, as soon as you will log into your AWS console, right? This is the dashboard that you will be shown after the login. So what we can do is we can directly search here, or if you have recently visited or if you have recently used your RDS, and if you are following along me in this particular playlist, right? So for sure you will have used RDS till now. So you can also get the RDS link right here in your recently visited section, right? But I can also search here for RDS, right? And here you will see this Aurora and RDS service, which is the managed relational database service. So I can just click on this link and I will be redirected to the RDS page. Okay. Firstly, here the very first thing that I'll be doing is I will try to select the region which is nearest to me, right? Even though I can choose North Virginia or any other regions, or let it be, for this particular video I will let the region be North Virginia itself, because currently there are no users that we have to serve, right? So, and I have already explained you guys these points multiple times, that what is the benefit of keeping the region close to our users or maybe to us is, right? So I have already explained those things. So for this video, let's keep the region as North Virginia itself, right? It hardly matters for current use case, right? Then what we will do is, either I can go to the databases section here, or here I can also create on click database again. With whatever ways you want to do, you can do that. And here I will click on create database. Okay. Now earlier we were going ahead with the easy create. For all the videos till now, whatever we have done, right, we have gone ahead with the easy create one. But for this video, right, we will try to go ahead with the full configuration mode, and we will try to see how full configuration mode is different from the easy create, and what all other configuration options do we get as compared to the easy create. Okay. So first of all, I will choose the full configuration mode, and then I can choose for the database engine which I want. So for this video, I will try to select MariaDB. So I will be selecting MariaDB here. Okay. So here now you can see we have some kind of engine version information that we can have. So we will have multiple options of MariaDB that we can select from. So right from MariaDB version 10.5.27 till the latest version that we have, that is 11.8.5, right? So it's recommended, right, that we should go ahead with the latest version. So version wise, right, there is this version that is 11, right, and 10. So this is the major version difference that is there, right, in the database engine. Then there is this difference between the subversion, that is 11.4, then we have 11.4.4, right, and at the last we have 11.8. So even though when this subversion has changed, it does not affect too much, right? There is not too much of updates that has been made to the database engines. But if there is this major version change, in that particular case, it's recommended that we should upgrade our database engine. So what we can do is, because we are creating our instance for the very first time, or we are launching a fresh instance, so we can go ahead with the latest version itself. Okay. So I'll be selecting the latest version. Now here you will see there are different templates that are available. So we have the production template, then we have the dev or test template, or we have the sandbox template. Okay. So I can go ahead with the production template in this particular case. Okay. Here I will be able to choose the database identifier name, means by which name or by which I can say name itself, my database should be identified. So I can say as, let's suppose here I can say Maria database. So I'm aware about the fact that this particular database is having the MariaDB engine. Okay. Then we can select our credentials. So here we can have our master username. So either I can keep this by default username, that is admin, or I can create any other username. Let's suppose I can create me as the master user, that is Vishal. Okay. Then we have our credential management. So either I can use the AWS secret manager to store the credentials, or I can go ahead with the self-managed part. Even in the self-managed part, again, I will have multiple options. So either I can auto-generate the password, right, which will be again a kind of secure password, and we will be able to view these details when the banner will be created. So let it be. For this, we have already talked about how we can create our own custom password, right? We were usually keeping root as our custom password, right? For this video, I will try to go ahead with the auto-generated password, right? Now additional credential setting. So what kind of authentication do we require to connect to our RDS database instance, right? So we will require the password authentication only to create or to connect to my database instance. So I will keep here the password authentication only. Now when we will be talking about the instance configuration. So here you can read the database instance configuration option below are limited to those supported by the engine that you have selected above. Okay. So based on what kind of database engine we have selected, there will be multiple or different instance options that will be available to me. Okay. So first one are the standard classes. So if I talk about the standard classes, so these are the instance options that are available to me for the standard class, right? Or for, I would say, the standard class that is M classes, right? So there are different kind of classes. So here you will see that in the name, the instance name will be something as, you can see, M5, right? So this is the M class. Then there is M7, right? So this is the newer generation of the M series. Then there is M6 also. Okay, so this is the previous version as compared to the M7, right? Then there is M8, right? So you can see right from M6 till M8 are the generation, or from M5 till M8 are the different generations of the instances classes that we are having. So if you are going ahead with db.m5 large, so in this particular case, we will get 2 CPUs, or I can say 2 cores, right? 2 virtual cores and 8 GB of RAM. The EBS, right, elastic block storage bandwidth will be up to 4.7 Gbps, or I can say 4750 Mbps. Network bandwidth I will get up to 10 Gbps. And again you can read here, it supports Amazon RDS optimized writes, right? So if you are having a write extensive operation that we have to do, means we have to do multiple write operations if you are aware about our use case, right? And if we know that there will be a write extensive application that we are trying to create, so in that particular case, we can go ahead with the M series. So this is the oldest generation of the M series. If I scroll down, so we can have the M8 generation also. So somewhere we will be able to see the M8 version. Now you can see here, right, the M8 version. So db.m8g, right, 2xl. So for this particular instance, we will be having 8 virtual core CPUs, 32 GB of RAM, and the elastic block storage bandwidth will be up to 10 Gbps, or I can say 10,000 Mbps, right? Even if you now want more bandwidth, EBS bandwidth, so you can also go ahead for the larger instances. That is, if you are going ahead for, let's suppose, 48x, right, 48xl, that is, this is again the 8th generation instance. So db.m8 8g, right, means the 8th generation. This is the M series, and of M series, this is the 8th generation. And the instance size is what? It is 48xl. So here you are getting 192 virtual CPUs, okay, 768 GB of RAM. So it's equivalent to a supercomputer, I would say. And the elastic block storage bandwidth you are getting is 40 Gbps, or I can say as 40,000 Mbps. And again, the network bandwidth that you are getting is 50 Gbps, right? So you can think of it again as a kind of super storage or supercomputer itself, right? So I guess this is the largest instance that we are having, that is 48XL, right? 48 is the largest one that we are having. Okay. So this is the largest instance for M series. Okay, this is the largest instance for M series. Again, we have R series and X series, right? So if I go ahead for the memory optimized classes, so we can go ahead with the R series, right? You can see R5D, right? R512XL, R5D 16XL. Then we have R6G, that is the 6th generation one. Okay. Then we may have the 7th generation one, right? R7. Then we have again R6, R7, R8 is also there now, right? Then we have our X series. Okay, so we have these many. So if you talk about now the X series, okay, so here you can see now. So the X series is what? It is having 128 virtual CPUs, 4000. Okay, just look at the RAM. Okay, look at the RAM. 4096 GB of RAM. Okay, 80,000 Mbps of elastic block storage bandwidth, and instant storage will be 3.7 TB. That will be NVMe SSD, and the network bandwidth is 100 Gbps. Okay, so again I would say a kind of super storage that we are having for the memory optimized classes. Now if you talk about the burstable classes, so again so this is a kind of smaller classes that we have, right? So here we will be having the maximum as DBT4G, right? This is the highest configuration that we are having, that is 8 virtual cores, 32 GB of RAM, right? 2.7 Gbps of EBS bandwidth, and up to 5 Gbps of network bandwidth. Okay, so this is a kind of smaller class that we are having, that is the T class. So we can go ahead with any of the classes, right? So let's go ahead with the M class that we are having. Now talking about the storage, what all things can we do with respect to the storage, right? So as we have already learned about the fact that in RDS we have multiple kind of storage types that we can select from, right? So we have magnetic storage, we have our SSD storage, and we have our provisioned IOPS storage. Okay, so you can see here we have our general purpose SSD storage that we can choose from. So in general purpose SSD also we have two types of, or I would say two generations of storage. So we have a GP2 or general purpose storage 2. So this is the baseline performance determined by the volume size. And then we have general purpose SSD, that is GP3. So performance scales independently from the storage. Then we have provisioned IOPS SSD 1, or you can say IO1. So flexibility in provisioning IOPS, and we have IOPS 2 where we have low latency, high durability, and input output extensive storage. And then we have our magnetic storage. So magnetic storage is usually not recommended by the AWS guys to use. So we will go ahead with provisioned IOPS storage. Now how much storage do I want to be allocated? So currently the storage volume that we are having is 400 GB, right? If I want, let's suppose more storage, let's say I want 4 TB. So I will just write here as 4000, and now the amount of storage that will be allocated to my instance will be 4 TB, or you can say 4000 GB also. So allocated storage value must be in a range of 100 GB till 65,536 GB, that is around 65.5 TB. Okay, then we have the provisioned IOPS values. So here these values means that how many number of read write operations can we do in one single second. Okay, so here the maximum limit that we are providing for the IOPS, right, or you can say the input output operations for the particular instance that we are creating is 3000. Means we will be able to do a maximum of 3000 input output operations, right, in one single second. So this particular value is for a per second basis. Okay. Now additional storage configuration if you want to do so, storage auto scaling. So if there is any kind of you can say, let's suppose, right, my storage has gone till 85% or maybe 75%, and I want to launch a new instance, right? In that particular case, I will either have to manually come here, or I can scale, I can select this auto scaling thing, and as soon as it reaches that threshold, or it exceeds that particular threshold, my other instance will be automatically launched, or maybe the storage will be you can say, it will be increased. So currently you can see the storage is of 4000 GB, right? Sorry, 4000, yeah, 4000 GB, or you can say 4 TB, right? Now with the auto scale part, how much do I want to scale to? So let's suppose from 4000 I want to scale till 6000 GB or 6 TB, right? So I can here write as, okay, I can remove this 5 now. Okay. So I want it to be scaled till 6 TB from 4 TB. So once there will be a threshold that will be reached, right? In that particular case, the volume of my storage will be increased to 6000 GB or 6 TB. Okay. Then what kind of deployment do I want to do? So do I want to do multi availability zone deployment? So you can see create a standby instance recommended for the production users. So create a standby in a different availability zone to provide data redundancy, eliminate input output freezes, and minimize the latency spike during the system backups. Okay, so I will try to go ahead with the multi availability zone deployment. Currently, I don't want it to connect to any kind of EC2 instance, so I will be not be I will not connect it to any kind of EC2 instance. Now, do I want my database instance to be publicly accessible? So ideally, it's not recommended that we are making our database instance as publicly accessible. So you can see RDS assigns a public IP address to the database. Amazon EC2 instance or other resources outside the VPC can connect to the database instance. Resources inside the VPC can also connect to the database. Choose one or more VPC security groups that specify your resources to connect to the database. Okay. If I select no, so RDS does not assign a public IP address to the database. Only the Amazon EC2 instance and the other resources inside the VPC can connect to the database. Okay. So we will create our own VPC, that is our virtual private cloud, and inside that VPC I will be launching my RDS instance. Now if I want my RDS to connect to any of the resources, right, I will be launching that particular resource inside the same VPC in which my RDS has launched. If I am launching the resource in some other VPC or outside the VPC in which the RDS is launched, it will not be able to connect to it. So ideally, we should keep this as no itself, so to keep our database in a very, very secured environment. Okay, so ideally it should be no. Now if I want any kind of firewall setting or security settings to be done, if I want to create my own VPC, right, or VPC security group, I can do it. Or if I want to choose any kind of existing security group, I can do that also. Now do I have to create any kind of RDS proxy? So RDS proxy means, right, so proxy is something, right, let me open my eraser.io. Okay, it's not connecting. Yeah, so zoom to 100%, and now if I scroll at the bottom, Okay, so what proxy will do is, so let's say this is my database instance that I have created. Okay, this is the database instance that I have created. Cool. Now, either I can provide, so this database instance will have some kind of IP address, right? It can have some kind of IP address. So this IP address can be either a public IP address or it can be a private IP address, right? So in this case, because we have not made it publicly accessible, okay, now if I show you guys, here you can see, right? So we have not made it publicly accessible. So there will be no kind of public IP address that will be allocated. So this database will only have a private IP address. So this database instance that we are creating currently will only have a private IP address. Cool. Now if I want to make it to connect to any kind of other instance, so what I will do is, okay, I will create a proxy, means I will create a machine, right? Or I will create a resource using which I will be able to connect to this particular database if I want. Okay, so this will be my proxy server. Okay, and me as a user, I will be connecting to this particular proxy server first. Okay, and this proxy server will be able to communicate to my RDS instance. Okay, so this is what creating a RDS proxy means. So let's create a RDS proxy. Okay, you will see how we will get this particular proxy thing. Now if I want to do any kind of additional configuration, so on which port ideally it should be available. So this is the default port for MariaDB instance, that is 3306. If you want to run it on some other port, you can mention that port here, but we will be keeping the by default port. Now you can see the monitoring part. So what kind of monitoring do I want to have? So either I can have the advanced monitoring, right, where we will be retaining 15 months of performance history. Fleet level monitoring will be there, and integration with the CloudWatch application signals will also be there. Or we can go ahead with the standard monitoring, where it will only retain the 7 days of performance history. And if you want to retain up to 24 months of performance history, in that particular case, it will be a paid thing. So let's keep it as advanced itself. Okay. Then we can enable the monitoring, enhanced monitoring, OS metrics granularity. So I will keep it as 60 seconds. So for every 60 seconds, it will keep on checking my operating system matrices. Let's keep it as default. I will expect the audit logs, error logs, general log. Okay, maybe slow query log also. Okay. Additional configuration if I want to do, so database options, so initialize database name. So maybe I can say this particular thing as sales hyphen DB, let's suppose. Okay, use letters and numbers. Okay, so I will only use sales DB. Okay, sales DB. Database parameter group. Okay, so this is the one I can select. Again, option parameter groups. Now if I want to create any kind of backup, okay, so enable automated backup. So how much like it will be automatically creating the backup, because we are here doing what we are doing, a multi availability zone deployment, and there will be a standby instance that will be created, right? So for sure a kind of backup is required, right? Because whatever we are having on our main instance, right, there will also be a kind of backup instance for this particular database. So there is a regular backup that is required, right? There will be a transfer of data, or I can say backup here. Okay, there is a kind of backup that will be required to keep this particular standby instance, right, in the correct order. Means it is having all the latest information that is there on the database. right? So it will automatically create the checkpoint and snapshot your database. Now backup retention period. So I can keep the backup retention as from 0 days till 35 days maximum. Okay, so let's keep it as by default as 7. So I will keep it as 7. Now backup window. So if I choose no preference, so AWS will automatically take care of the backup. If I want to specially mention any kind of window, let's suppose at okay, I can say as, let's say 2 p.m. sorry 2 a.m. UTC. Okay, so 2 a.m. will be what? It will be 200, right? So 200 UTC, I will be creating my backup window, and the backup window duration will be half an hour. Okay, so I can do that also, right? And then we can select the maintenance thing. So enable auto minor version upgrade. So minor version upgrade is the same thing that I was talking about here, right? So if the database engine now from 11.8.5 it is changed to, let's suppose, 11.8.7, okay, so it will automatically upgrade it. But if there is a major upgrade, means MariaDB currently it is 11.8.5, it becomes 12.0.0, in that particular case I will have to do it manually, right? It will not upgrade the major version change, it will only upgrade the minor version change. Or let's suppose now it becomes 11.9.0, in that particular case AWS will automatically handle the upgrade. If I'm enabling this particular if I'm enabling this minor version upgrade, so here you can also see enabling auto minor version upgrade will automatically upgrade your database minor version. For limitations and more details, you can see automatically minor version upgrade documentation here. Okay. Now, if you want to select any kind of maintenance window, I can choose that window similar to the window that we created in the backup window. But we have to keep in mind that we cannot choose the same window as the backup window. If I am choosing 2 p.m. here also, so it will give me an error, right? You can see the maintenance window and the backup window of the database instance cannot overlap. Okay. So here the backup window is from 2 p.m. from 2 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. right? So I can keep this particular thing as, let's suppose, from 2:30 a.m. to 30. Okay, now you can see the error has gone, right? If I do it let's suppose any other value, so because my backup window is for half an hour, it is again giving me the error. It is showing that it is overlapping, right? So I will keep it as 2:30. Okay, now from 2:30 till half an hour, that is 2:30 a.m. till 3 a.m. the maintenance window will be open. So you can see here the monthly cost that I will incur for this particular database instance that I have created. Okay, so for DB instance I will be charged this much, that is 249.66 USD. For storage I will be charged 1000 USD. For provisioned IOPS I will be charged 600 USD. Okay, now if I am increasing the instance size, okay, so let's see how much I will be charged for the topmost instance size that we have, that is this one. Okay, so if I'm selecting this instance type, let's see how much will be charged. Okay, so you can see for the database instance, for that monster database instance, we will be charged 88,861.4 USD. Okay, so it's near about, I can say, as 88 lakh rupees on a Indian side. Okay, so it is around 81.5 lakhs. Okay, so 81.5 lakh rupees on a monthly basis. Okay, on a monthly basis I will be charged for a monster size of this instance that we'll be having, that is 128 cores of CPU, 4096 GB of RAM and 80,000 Mbps of bandwidth. Okay, and now you can see here, so this will be the estimated cost of it. So let's not run this particular instance, right, because we don't have any users with an instance of this size. So I will go back to my instance class and I will be choosing the smallest instance size. Okay, now it has decreased to 249 USD only, that is I would say around 25 thousand rupees, or maybe even lower. For sure, it will be lower. That is around 23,000 rupees, right? So 23, you can see here the difference, right? 23,000 rupees and 81 or 81.5 lakh rupees, right? So you can just see. You can also, this thing signifies what, guys? This thing also signifies the kind of scale option we have on the cloud, right? You can choose as small as the instance size where we are spending 23,000 rupees on a monthly basis, and as large as instance size where we have to spend 81.5 lakh rupees on a monthly basis, right? So you can even just try to visualize or try to estimate the kind of flexibility we have with respect to the database sizes that we have on the cloud, right? Now that's it. These are all the options, right, where we can choose our database instance with respect to the full configuration mode. Now I can just click on this create database instance, right, and it will start creating my database, and it will be launching my database in a few minutes. You can see now creating the database, that is Maria database. So your proxy might take up 20 minutes to create and before available. So a secret manager and IAM policy has access. The secret for use, this proxy has been created. Okay. So let's wait till the database instance is launching. Okay, so you can see RDS has generated your database master password during the database creation. It will be displayed in the connection details. The only way to view the master password is to choose the database connection details during the database connection. Okay, so I'll do what here. Okay, I will just click on this view connection details, right? And if I will copy this particular master password, right? And now I can see here and do control V. So you can see this is the master password that it has created. Okay. And this is the endpoint that it has created, right? And this is the master username. It's taking some time, right, to get it configured and to get it launched. So we were already aware about the fact that it will take some time. So yeah, we'll have to, I guess, wait for a few more minutes and then it will be launched. Yeah, so the status has now been changed to modifying, and this is the last stage before the database gets created. So it's near to being launched in some time. Cool. So now you can see the status of the database instance is now in the available mode. Now what we have to do is we have to connect to this particular database instance, right? So either I can click on this particular view connection details, right? And I can also go on to this particular documentation where it will provide me all the information about how I will be able to connect to the database instance, right? So we have to go ahead with the MariaDB. Okay. So you can very clearly see how we will be able to connect to the MariaDB instance, right? So here you can see after the Amazon RDS provisions or database instance, you can use any standard Maria database client application or utility to connect to the instance. In the connection string, you specify the domain name system, that is the DNS address, from the database endpoint of the host parameter, that is this particular endpoint that it is mentioned here. Okay, so this is the DNS or the endpoint at the host parameter. You also specify the port number of the database instance. So while we were creating the database instance, right, we already had the port number, or else let's suppose if you have forgot the port number, so this is where you can also get the port number from, that is 3306, and again endpoint is right here. Okay, you have to make sure that you must copy this particular master password right before closing this particular banner, because this master password will not be displayed again. Yeah, for sure you can uh, modify the password moving forward. Okay, and then what you have to do is, so you can connect to the Amazon RDS for the database instance using the MySQL command line client. For more information, you can go on to this particular link, or the GUI based application is Heidi. Okay, so you can also download Heidi SQL using this particular link. Okay, if you are using Linux, so these are the commands that we can use. Okay, right, and these are the details of the MariaDB instances that we will have. So for connectivity and security, so we will have the endpoint, we can have the port number. Networking wise, you can see the availability zone in which it has created. You can see the VPC, we can see the subnet group, right? We can also see the VPC security groups that it has created it to. If we want to connect it after launching it, if we want to connect it to some kind of EC2 connection or maybe some kind of Lambda function, so we can do that particular thing also. If we have some kind of existing Lambda function, we can choose it, or we can also create a new Lambda function, and based on that particular Lambda function, I will be able to connect my database instance to that particular Lambda function, again, which we have already talked about it, right? So what we did it, we created an event based trigger, or event based write, I would say, right? Where we were using SQS, Amazon SQS service, right? Using which we were getting some data, customers data. We were using a Lambda function to trigger the write, that as soon as in the SQS the data is stored, right, I will have to trigger the write operation to my RDS, and the data was getting written to my RDS database, right? So this is what we have already done earlier. Okay, then talking about the monitoring and everything, so you will be able to see all the logs of the RDS instances right here. Okay, so these are the logs that you will be able to see here, right? CPU utilization, bin log disk uses, temp tables, and all these stuffs will be available here. There are more than 100. That is, if I talk about precisely, so precisely there are 133 matrices that are being captured here in the CloudWatch about this particular database instance itself. Then talking about the logs and events, so you will be able to see all the logs, right? SQL error log, right? Upgrade if there is any, proxdb, right? Database logs and all those stuffs. Configuration wise, you will be able to see all the configuration of the instance here, right? Database instance ID, engine version, database name, and all these stuffs will be available right here. Maintenance and backup, so you will be able to see everything here. Data migration, so if you want to create any kind of data migration, you can just click on this particular data migration, and using the database EC2 instance, we will be able to create a kind of data migration thing here for the RDS instance. So I can leave this page, database instances, okay, and I can click on this. Tags and recommendations, if there will be any, you will be able to see all the recommendations here itself. Currently we don't have any kind of recommendation because currently we are not running any kind of queries or doing any kind of operations on top of my database instance. Cool. So this was it, guys. So this is how we are able to launch a full configuration mode, right? MariaDB instance in our RDS. So I hope you guys learned something new in this particular video. I will see you in the next one. Till then, keep learning and keep growing. Bye-bye.